Right, hey everyone, and apologies for the slight delay there. We were having a few technical difficulties in getting the presentation up and running for you. But thank you everyone for joining. My name is Jess. I'm the sales lead here at Showcode. So for this episode of Engineer Your Career, and we're welcoming the lovely Rhea Sam, who will be sharing her insights on how to build a product with data. Firstly, though, welcome back to those who've attended one of these talks before. And if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you've not heard of Showcode before, Showcode is a tech community platform where you can build, share, and compete, and even get hired. So we run lots of activities to support you in your career growth, such as hackathons, coding competitions, meetups, and workshops. So if you're interested in technology, definitely sign up. And we have various communities as well that you can get involved in, one of which being Athena, which our lovely Rhea is an ambassador for. That's our community for women and non-binaries. We've also got Varsity Code, which is for those who are earlier on in their careers, like students and boot campers and so on. And then we have one of our newer communities, which is Pro Code, if you're slightly more experienced and looking for something a bit more challenging. So I'll share this information in the chat. Just a few housekeeping rules before I hand over to Rhea. Please do get involved with the conversation if you'd like to, with using the chat function. Any questions, please pop in the Q&A just so we can come back to those at the end. But that is mostly it. Otherwise, enjoy the session. And Rhea, if you need me, obviously I will be here, but I will now hand over to you to do your own introduction, and looking forward to hearing about everything to do with data.
Thank you, Jess. That's a wonderful introduction. Sorry, guys, for the technical difficulties. Classic. Right. So my name is Raya. I'm a data scientist at Valtech. I've been in this industry for about a year and a half. I was a data analyst to start off, and then I've moved on to become a data scientist. So pretty cool. Well, for me. My background is in business information systems and then a master's in data science. So pretty technical route, I would say. But that's a little bit about me. But apart from work, I do enjoy a massive, I'm a massive reader. So like I have a problem where I have a stack of books that I'm yet to read, but I end up buying more. I enjoy dancing. I do go to the gym quite a bit. It's my like escape place. So things outside work. I'm not all about work, but yeah. But today I wanted to talk about data and what it means to be having a data-driven organic growth in business, run you through some of my experiences and what I've seen so far, and just walk you through what that means in general is building your product with data. I'm just going to share my screen and then we're good to go. Can everybody see my screen now, I think? I hope.
Yeah,
Awesome. Cool. I really like this picture, guys. Reminded me of Tate Modern if anyone's been there. But yeah. Anyway, so some of the things I wanted to speak to you about today. What does it mean to be data-driven as a business? What are some of the models in data? Some of the examples we use with data? What is the key gap that we face in this industry today? What does that mean? I mean, in the sense of what does it mean to be not data-driven, and where we can see a few gaps in the process. Who are you? What are your customers' needs? Some commercial insights, steps to be more data-driven approach, and some solutions. And then we can summarize. So what, why, how, really. Cool. First section, data and business. What does it mean to be data-driven? So like, let's just ignore all the fancy words that are there. Data is, I feel like to this day, a lot of people use data just because they can say data. But what does it mean to have data? Data at the gist of it is just information, whatever that may be. When you put context to it, it's useful information, hence data. Data-driven, on the other hand, when I'm sure you must have heard somewhere, and if you haven't, you'd probably hear somebody say it. It's very common that people throw this word around saying, yeah, we're a data-driven business. We like to do XYZ. We like to believe we use data to do this and that. But the reality of it is 9 out of 10 times that is not the case, because data is more than just having it. It is also being able to be literate enough to use it to your advantage. So data driven at the end of the day is when a business actually leverages their data collection in whatever way to make more informed decisions and bring out more efficient solutions to any problems that they're trying to solve or provide any services for. I thought it would be easier to just break that down into 4 parts. When we look at data driven, there's a vast amount of data that exists, but 90% of the time it's you cleaning it up or having to deal with something that just is completely nonsensical. So that is actually what most people don't see. That's like the behind the scenes. So it's a very common term. It's used a lot. I've had a few experiences where we've had siloed data. We've had so many tools, but we didn't know how to use half the tools to make it work. So integration was poor. We talked about artificial intelligence a lot, and now more than ever, we seem to be talking about artificial intelligence thanks to OpenAI, Google with Bard, GPT modeling with OpenAI, and Microsoft with their new Bing chat. So when I say data-driven, I like to go into a little more detail with some examples. So when I say reduce siloed data, when I say improved quality of data, when I say AI solutions and improved decision making, what does that even mean? Let's start from this top. You would come in as a firm, if you were somebody who had consulting services, for example, where you are looking at data, a lot of data, different ways of collection, different ways of handling the data, but you have all this information and you're trying to make sense of it. How do you stop the redundancies? How do you stop the data dependencies? How do you try and reduce the issues that you may face with the data? That all comes down to really the literacy of what you can do with the data. So when we're trying to be more data driven, it's more to do with the operational side, because a lot of the times data is siloed, and when I mean siloed, they're working in different streams when it should be possibly one stream, because one, it reduces the dependencies, one, it reduces reduces the redundancies of it, and three, at the end of the day, you're not doing the same job someone else is doing, so saves everybody really a lot of time. Then comes the fancy tools. At this day and age, firms use a lot of tools to enable themselves to be able to make more smart decisions on things. For example, you've got visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI, which is more of the front end side of things, where we go to a customer and we say, hey, this is the data you provided us. Here are some things that we noticed. Here are some things we can do to move forward. Could be marketing, could be sales, could be finance, could be anything. But those tools enable us to be able to improve, one, the quality of the data, stage it in a way that it's more structured, and that in itself will give us more answers to where to go next. But the downside to it, and to this day and age, what you actually see happening is that there are so many tools, it can be overwhelming. One, when you have too many tools, it can be overwhelming. Two, it can be very unstructured, because just because you have 10 tools does not mean that your architecture is built to integrate all these tools. Then it's also the connection of the data. Then it's how do you maintain the data? How do you use that data? How do you pull the data out of there? How do you model in that data? How do you build that product from scratch? Without these tools, you can't. But when you integrate these tools, you can. The downside is when you need 3 tools and you use 6, you are, one, making things complicated for yourself. It's harder for you to actually process or structure yourself to understand where the issue may come from when you're having issues with either collecting the data or storing the data or actually using the data. And it causes just a complete confusion. It becomes chaotic, and you lose lack of trust. There'll be a massive lack of trust in what you're trying to build because you wouldn't know where to go next. When you're being data driven, you can also use AI, and I use this very loosely because AI is something that's growing and ever going to be growing, but there is a lot you can do with it. And when I speak AI, I mean more deep learning. I mean more neural networking, or when you want to do when a customer comes in and when we want to understand the customer's sentiments to our product, we would use something called natural language processing, where we use the feedback that we get from these customers, text-based, and turn that into a sentiment analysis, and we understand the customer behavior and their perception of our product that we provide for the customers. So that's when I say data driven. You can do AI solutions. One of them, and a classic example, is natural language processing. The last one being improved decision making. I mean, this is just really to summarize what I've already said, is that when you have the data literacy, when you've decided that you have when you want to work on your operations and architecture of the tools you have, it's easier for you to know where to go next. And that could be, this tool is best to analyze this and bring out these insights. We have Databricks for more machine learning. We've got Data IQ for more visual data science. We've got Python for just pure engineering work. You've got SQL. You've got Snowflake to do more transformation of your data. I know, big words. So just to break it down, it's really just look at your data. The data isn't clean. Clean the data. Make it usable, readable. Then you go in and say, hey, let's do some exploration here, and I'll get to this a little more in detail. What can we do with this data? All right, we can do XYZ solutions. Let's prototype it. Let's test it. Let's feedback it. All these decisions that you end up doing is because that you have this data-driven approach where you're thinking, this is where we stand to provide for a product. These are the tools that would be best in our architecture. This is how we're going to reduce redundancy by combining data and storing it into a more unified position. Now that I've rambled on for a little bit, I'm going to go and come to the cool parts. I wanted to give you some examples of whatever I've just said, and I want to take 3 main examples. One is Netflix. Everybody knows Netflix. Everybody uses Netflix, and I think everybody also to this day and age has possibly come past the term algorithms. But what does it mean? What does that mean to you? Netflix uses a lot of recommendation engines. They use a lot of preferential behavioral data. So that could be clustering of their customers to really analyze and understand and really cater specifically to each customer or groups of customers of similar behavior. Netflix uses a lot of data and then they use their tools and a lot of predictive analytics to then come up and say, you watched XYZ movies and series. Here are some similar genre selections or similar storyline content selections that you may end up liking. And that's how they always throw suggestions or be like, here's the top 10 based on the ratings that we have for the top 10 movies that we've seen. Here are some fan favorites, feedback. And it's also understanding click behavior, understanding, hey, this customer has been clicking on these, and so maybe we can come up with a basket of things that they may like next. And that's what Netflix really, really strong point is. I mean, there is a downside to it. Sometimes they can overwhelm you with algorithms that you don't really care about, like movies that you're like, why is this even here? Data is never perfect. Data will never be perfect. Data will never be fully clean. But we can do our best to be literate enough to understand how we can leverage it to the best of our abilities to reduce these limitations and build a better product or service for our customers. Google with their Bard honestly, and their people analytics. This is something really cool I read that Google did, which is really use their employee performance reviews and feedbacks to actually come back and say, here's what we're doing differently now so that we can uh, create a more healthy environment for you, find your work-life balance. And I feel like a lot more companies are open to that. They're also looking at the data to do that. I used to do some of that work, do a lot of analytical work for employees, where I would do, this is where we find that the culture is not fitting and we should reevaluate some of the values, or this is where we need to restructure so that we give them a lot more safe space to be more open with their feedback, because sometimes feedback doesn't have to be transparent. People are going to hold back if they don't feel like they can trust the people team with it. So it's all of this in the analytics that improves and continuously has a feedback loop that allows for that improvement of a workplace culture. Bard is, well, it's coming up, a competitor to ChatGPT, and is supposed to be a very intelligent chatbot. So now I think we're coming to an age where we're going to get more of these cool chatbots to really reduce the thinking time for us and provide more answers quickly and work at a speed that we probably wouldn't be able to. I also, what I read, I think on their website, and it was pretty cool that they did this, because something that OpenAI I felt was not as open initially before they got the attention to improve, was that Bard is trying to be as transparent to say that, hey, look, we are building this, but here are some limitations. For example, they've said there's unreliability to just the data that they're providing, and they're still working on it. And when I say unreliability, it's more to say that the data may be limited. So whatever answers they give is limited to whatever data that they're training on, whatever data that's being fed into this chatbot to be able to output the answers you're looking for. And I think that's pretty cool that they're doing that. Then we've got DBS Bank, which is more to do with customer needs and intelligent banking. And I think here it's pretty cool because they use forecasting, then they use decision making with predictive and analytics and classification to understand customers' portfolios to better enable them to do better banking. And it could be banking, it could be also, investing, what stocks to invest in next. They do that now. And when you have things online, it's easier to track. The preferences and the feedback that they get from the customer saying, I'm interested in here. What do you think of these stocks? Do you think they're good in this market? It's easier for them to make more more trustworthy decisions and go back to the customer and say, actually, you should look at diversifying your portfolio in this industry. It seems like there is a clear potential for it to grow, versus, oh, your money's not doing well here, and based on what we've tracked in the last 6 months, we think it's time for you to sell. As just an example. But DBS Banking does a lot of analytics and AI to be able to give more sound decisions to their customers on their portfolio and investments. Coming next to some of the findings that I felt, and here is really where I'm going to open up about data-driven limitations and gaps. I thought I'll throw in a word cloud because it's easier to just talk about a word cloud because, so big words: limitations, overwhelmed, lack of depth, miscommunication, too technical, overcommitting, scope. So some of the gaps that we have, and I broke these down into 4 separate categories on why a lot of companies struggle to be data-driven and how we can drive it to be there, where we're trying to be more sound with our decisions and be more data-driven to service our product in a more advantaged stage. 4 things that most companies get wrong: lack of strategic alignment, poor data quality, and there's more. And I think, but these are some key gaps that people ignore, or rather don't take as much into consideration, and hence Even though they say they're data-driven, their services don't show that they're data-driven. It's attached data workflows and weak data literacy. Let's start with the first one, lack of strategic alignment. Did you know that there's actually only 30% of firms that actually know what it means to be data-driven and action it actually? That's not a lot in the grand scale of things, but that is a lot if we were to measure our progress in the last 30 years from where we came with our big chunky computers to now everything on the cloud and data centers and all of that. Lack of strategic alignment. A lot of the times, and in my experience as well, what I've noticed working in different teams is that there is a clear miscommunication between teams. They are working in complete silos, that they don't know how to come together to build a better data strategy, a clear plan for the future, to be able to not just put out products now, but what is the long-term goal? Where are we trying to get in 5 years' time? How do we make this product even better? Because, once you put a product out, it doesn't end there. You have to keep going back. You have to do the continuous feedback loop. You have to want to improve, because why would the customer want to use that product if you're not going to listen to some of the limitations? And no product is perfect enough for a customer to come back and say, hey, this is great. So the lack of strategic alignment really comes from the fact that when you're thinking about making decisions with data, when you're trying to align and you are not on the same page and you decide to do different things, and then you still put out the product together, you will clearly see a mismatch in the execution versus what was planned and what was promised to the customer. So that's what I mean by lack of strategic alignment. Also, I think it's very important to involve hierarchy. And the higher up, you should be expecting not just the technical people to understand what the data is, but you need to enable everyone enough. And this is where the data literacy comes in. And I've used this quite a bit because I'm a strong believer that everyone should be literate enough to understand what's in front of them. And that means enabling the data to be user-friendly and not something really complicated that only the person that's working on it understands. I think it's very key that management level, leadership level, CEO level understands that the alignment, that the direction that they want to go to and how to get there is a clear path, but never a linear path. It also means that that they should understand enough that whatever presentations we put out there for this product is also understood by them, because at the end of the day, this is the service you're trying to provide. And if your own internal colleagues don't understand what the product is or why we're doing this and why we're serving this, there's a misalignment, and then it just turns into a literal chaotic thing, because somebody says something, somebody else says something, and then the services just don't add up. Poor data quality. Again, very key. A lot of data scientists, data engineers, and analysts, to an extent, what our job 80%, 85, 90% of the time is to make sure the data can be, one, easily accessed, two, it actually makes sense. And what that means is a lot of the times the data, the way it's collected, is not really readable to anybody. And then we have to convert that into a more readable format. We also have to make sure, for example, if there are a lot of nulls in the data, what that means, the significance of it. Do we keep the empty data? Why isn't the data not there? If is the data important to be there? If it's not, we can remove it. But if it is, why are we collecting? It's literal data exploration, where we're trying to understand, okay, this is the data we have. This is what we've collected. This is the information we have. How do we make this of more quality so that when we start reporting on this data, it is of also better quality, and the numbers make sense, or whatever insights we come up with actually matches what we're trying to achieve for the business problem or service that we're providing. Detached workflows. I think this, again, will come under silo data and also the strategic alignment. When you don't have a single source of truth, it really is scary, because when you start When you don't know what the data is supposed to look like at the end of the day and what the output is, and you are just there with this data, and one team says this is the source of truth and the other team says this is what the output should look like, if there are two different output viewpoints, then we're in trouble, because there can only be one source of truth. That is, this is the main goal that we're all trying to achieve. How do we get there? That doesn't matter, but we need to get there somehow. But we need to align on the fact that this is the product we're trying to sell. So the data should make sense to this product. And if the truth is something else, then why would we buy the product? Why would we invest in the service, etc.? It's having the right tools. Goes back to the architectural problem I mentioned. Why should we have 10 tools when 3 of the tools get most of the job done? And no tool can cater to everything, and that's why we have a data architecture to maintain, so we understand the integration between the different tools that get us what we want, the information that we want in the most quality way possible. But if we're working in more siloed and detached data workflows where engineering is cleaning up the data but is storing somewhere else, and the scientists are trying to get the data but they're pulling it from somewhere else, then we're not looking at a clear structure. The flow is broken, and then we're just working in chaos again. The last thing is data literacy, and I'm going to ramble on a bit again, but when you have weak data literacy, when you are not equipping your employees with the right kind of information, with the right kind of growth and development to be able to train and understand what the information we hold means, we're not data driven, because there's no way we can make decisions with data if we don't understand what the data means. It's just as simple as that. And a lot of the times what happens is firms say they want to be data driven, they want to implement all these AI solutions, they want to do all of these cool things, but only, I would say, 5% of the company knows how to do that. And 5% would be also doing other work. So how can this 5% be the only people that ends up doing it? And it would be impossible. 1, time constraint. 2, we're human and we would like some time to ourselves, and we don't want to end up at work 24 hours. Reality of it. But enabling your employees with the right amount of training and development to be more data literate is, I think, key to being a lot more data driven in any decision you decide to make for the company. The fear, there is a big fear when it comes to tech. There is a big fear when it comes to data. A lot of people think you need to know coding, you need to know XYZ tools to be able to be data literate. And I think that is the common misconception I've seen throughout my career and during my studies too, is that, and I used to have the same fear when I actually initially started, and then I came to realize that no one knows everything, no one can know everything, but it doesn't always have to be as complicated as it's commercialized or put out there or marketed as. In fact, you can be data literate by simply knowing what your data means and what you're looking at day to day. So if it's for marketing and you want to put out a campaign for a specific product, if you know what the product is trying to appeal to the customers and which customers to appeal, that's you already knowing who the customers are and what the appeal is. That's data for you. That's information that you're going to use to be like, I know which customers to target next, because I know based on the data that I have that these customers are going to like this next launch of a product. So data literacy, very, very key, and hence the longest arrow. I want to come into a little quick breakdown of just understanding, I guess, putting your product out there. And really, it's just to understand how to be more commercial thinking. And when I mean commercial thinking is not the technical aspect, but really understanding what your business is trying to achieve. So what is the issue you're trying to solve? Or what is the gap that you're servicing for? The next one would be the functions of the business. How did each team work? And I'm not telling you need to write down, you need to draw each team and what they do and write a whole report on it. No, not at all. But really understanding a lot of this base foundation is understanding what the business is trying to do. whatever product they're trying to sell, whatever service they're trying to sell. What is the issue, if there are any? And if you're consulting, I'm pretty sure you cater to different clients, and then you have different goals that companies have, and they come to you and they're like, hey, I want this. But you don't solve the immediate issue, and I'll get to that. But essentially what you're trying to see is, hey, okay, I'm working for this company. What does this mean? What am I trying to achieve here? Where am I trying to go? What are some of the functions of the business that should be working together or could work together to be able to get there, in the grand scheme of things? And what are some solutions that we offer already, and maybe some things that we can think about based on data again. So that's when I say pre-sales to sales to delivery, really like, what is our sales pitch, or what are we looking at in terms of delivery? How does that journey look like? And it's just for you to understand where you fit and how you can contribute as an employee to get that product, its success or service to your customers. Technology with commercial insights. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about commercial insights because, it's cool to be data driven. It's cool to be all of this. But when you start thinking about, I guess, putting out that product, a lot of the times it's been seen that we only think through a technical lens of things. So before I jump into lens, I think there's key things to this. One is the players, the core team. Could be consultants, and I'm just taking an example. Consultants, a technical lead, one who can help you, support you. Got a bunch of analysts to be able to communicate the insights. You've got a bunch of scientists doing the research. You've got sales. You've got HR. Everything involved with collection of data to dealing with data, whatever that is, whatever information. You are a key player in terms of using tech and connecting that to the business. Data-driven also massively fails, and I think this was in a summarization of it all. It fails when you fail to connect the technology and the information that you have to the actual business needs. And this is where I mean the lens. A lot of technical people, and I don't mean to narrow down on them, but a lot of people, I would say, and I'm going to change that a bit. The common misconception or assumption is that when you have a problem, that is the only problem you need to solve, and that is the end goal. No, because once you achieve it, what next? You have to always think about what next. And that could be that, hey, there's this really cool tool that we could use, for example, that could make our lives easier in this area that we're finding that's a lot more time consumption. I'm giving an example of consulting here where, a client would come in, they'd say, we're having issues here. We think we don't have the expertise, or we need the expertise here to solve this issue or analyze this information a little better and come up with more useful insights. Cool, we can do that. Now, we can do all of that, but it doesn't end there, because you want to build that relationship. You want to keep working. And now, of course, you can have one-offs if the client's not interested. But it's also very interesting to see how when you connect tech to data, you're also building a relationship within your company, outside your company. It's just, it's a beautiful relationship where you're trying to strengthen and understand, one, the relationship with your clients or customers, two, within your teams, to be like, I know who to go to if I have a problem. I know how to get there. I have an idea for another thing that we can do for this customer. Let's think about it. Ideation, continuous review, and building that product, building more products, building a line of products, improving products, just growing. The growth of it all just doesn't end with one problem. And lastly, the integration of data to build an effective architecture. Very key. And I go back to the issue of the architecture. If you have 10 tools versus 3 tools, why do you need the 10 tools? If you have the literacy to understand you don't need these tools, let's clean up our architecture. Let's use these 4 tools as our core tools that we need essentially every day. And then on the occasion, if we feel like we need to use this tool, we then buy a subscription. One, it's cost friendly. You are not wasting money, because these tools are not free. At the end of the day, yes, there's a lot of open source, but the services are limited. At the end of the day, you still need to pay a whole fee to be able to really use the tool to your advantage. And that's cost. That's cost that you don't even think of on a daily, but it's a lot of cost. So being able to be more intelligent with your architecture and really use the core tools to your benefits, and then use any other tools on a more subscription based, then you're more likely to just build a more sound structure from end to end, input to output, to know how to get from A to B pretty clearly and what tools to use that way. I think this was just to talk about the lens. I thought it was a pretty cool image on what does it mean to be technical decision versus data driven. Some cool things: continuous business growth. I mentioned that. It's being able to review and understand where you are. Have you achieved your targets? If you have, what next? Knowledge and information. This is more to do with the literacy, reading up on what's new, how can our tool be better, what are competitors doing. Enhanced communication, cross communication across teams, being more functional and working cross-functional is absolutely key. And I know it's not perfect and will never be perfect. We're humans. But if we're being more conscious about it, it's already a step in the right direction. Adaptability, I think it can go back to anything. One, restructuring teams to be like, hey, maybe these two teams are working in silos, but what if we combine them together? They can work together and talk together. Hey, this product looks similar to the other one. What if we try and integrate these two to build this one giant popular product that customers will like? New business opportunities always arise when you're trying to make more sound decisions, more strategic, efficient decisions, and at the same time looking out for consistent opportunities to grow. Okay, so I think this is part of solutions really, but I'm going to talk about solutions a little bit and how I see from end to end this happening on a higher level. And I give a consulting firm example where I'm thinking awareness. I think a lot of the times in my experience that I've noticed is that, there are teams, and it's improving, I would say, but I've also noticed sometimes that the technical people are not there to kind of sell the project or sell the project to the client, because the client will come to you for something and say, we want this product or this service, and we want to understand our data better here. We don't have the expertise. How do we get there? I think if sales and the technical team work together to be like, here's what's possible, here's what we can sell, because sales at the end of the day really spot on can sell it to the client and say, we can do this. But when we overcommit, when we overpromise, like you've seen in the word cloud, it causes unstructured, it causes a lot of stress. It also puts us in a position where we can make or break our clients' trust, our customers' trust, because we're promising something and we're not delivering that. So really seeing also the bigger picture than the immediate ask. Yeah, I mean, when the sales say, yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we can do this, but then here's something else we can do. And really, when you have the data and where the technical team really comes in and leverages this, is like, if you have the technical literacy for it and you're like, hey, this is cool, we have this information, we can do this. So like I said, if we had customer feedback, we can do sentiment analysis, but we can also do clustering to improve customer behavior preference. So be like, it could be marketing, like online marketing, where we're like, here's an email sending you all the products that you think you may be interested in, or if there's a sale and you said you're interested, and we track that and we say, okay, here are some products, here are in sale. So it's being able to go beyond just the immediate ask of, hey, client says we want to know what the sentiment of our brand is, and then that's that. No, go beyond it. Go say, hey, how about we also do some marketing for you, and we show you that you can improve your customer loyalty and preferences using predictive analytics and forecasting, etc. So the awareness of it all, the consideration, the feasibility study. And a lot of the times, this is not given enough time to do. It's always rushed or is not given enough information to be able to do it right. So the feasibility study to do the data exploration phase. That means coming in with consultants and analysts to be able to build a proper scope end to end of how to get from what input we have to the delivery of the need. it's also looking at the architecture. This is also where the architecture planning comes in, because you're like, you know what tools you need. Maybe you don't have the tool you need. Okay, you see this is a short-term thing, not a long-term thing for other projects. So then you say, let's do a subscription versus let's build this into our essential. Then you've got the alignment. You know, once you've done the feasibility, you go back to sales and say, hey, we've done this. Let's go speak to the client again. Let's take this a little further and say, here's some cool things that we've done. Here's some deliveries that we've done. Let's talk about next steps. Also scope it into a longer term project and make it more sales pitch friendly. And then the delivery, where the client's happy, you're happy that you delivered, the client's happy that they got what they wanted, and you're already speaking about next steps, about just where do we go next? What are some cool things that we can think about? Another delivery, get feedback on the delivery that you did. What some things that you thought were limiting you? What were some of the things that you couldn't deliver on because of XYZ? What did the client think of your delivery, of your service, etc.? So that continuous feedback loop. And really that's about data-driven approach and how to really use data to drive to a better product. And I'm just going to summarize this really quick because I think I've rambled on for quite a bit. But key steps. One is identifying the problem of service, technical pre-sale, scoping, data discovery, prototypes and implementation. I think this is very key. So in the delivery stage of things, you send out prototypes so your client's not completely out of the loop and they know that you're working and you're making progress in some way. They should be able to understand and track where you are and what limitations or obstacles you're facing, because if you don't communicate to the client, then the implementation is going to fail and in turn your delivery too. Testing is key, and most people that. I think a continuous feedback loop is very important on a high level and should always keep that as open communication. This is a lovely diagram that I made just to summarize the whole thing. So you got, you've got your prototyping, delivery, feedback and testing, and improved product or solutions. So just rushing through it, this is like a pretty cool thing, but this is the roadmap, right? Technical pre-sales, data discovery, a few effective approaches. And what I mean by this is prototyping, architecture discovery, delivery, feedback and testing, a visual roadmap from end to end, how you can be more data driven and think about literacy and some of the gaps that you face. So being aligned on strategy. And that's it. So I wanted to leave you guys with a question. So what does the future of data-driven firms look like to you? And this is just a thought. I'm open to discussion. But yeah, that's it from me.
Oh, thanks so much, Rhea. That was really, really great. I love like how you connected like sales and data. Like the team are always sort of going to me like, oh my gosh, can you stop going on? Because I'm constantly like, do we have data on this? Do you have data on that? Because data does sell at the end of the day.
It's very monetary, but most people think data is very scary and only can be read by a few people.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So yeah, no, I think it's a space that more and more people need to be more knowledgeable about, because without data we wouldn't really have a lot going on. It's so crucial in everything that we do, both personally and from a business point of view as well. So no, thank you for that. It's great to get some sort of more insights into how it works from your point of view as well, because I think, as I say, like I sit within a sales role, so I see it from what's the end number. I don't really see all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes in terms of getting to that number that we have and ways that it can be improved. So no, that was really, really great. Thank you so much. We haven't had any questions in the chat, so if anyone did want to ask any questions, they're more than welcome. I will do a little bit of a blabbing briefly, just in case anyone did want to fire any questions across to Rhea. If not, we can obviously send across to her if you want, or if you want to connect with her on LinkedIn and ask her directly. You're more than welcome to. I will share our connection links again now, because I appreciate if anyone that joined late, you may not be able to see them in the chat currently. So there we go. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and connect with Rhea, and also connect with me if you want to. Definitely Rhea, though, if you want to speak about more so about data. So this is why I blur my background. My dog just deciding to get up on his afternoons.
It's very cute.
So yeah, no, thank you so much for everyone. I haven't seen anything come through, so I think we're good to wrap up. Rhea, thank you once again. It's been great to have you. Great to hear more.
Thank you.
No, it's great. And I'm looking forward to anyone that's watching and is interested in getting more involved with the community. We have lots of things going on all of the time, whether it be office partner meetups, whether it be hackathons and so on. As a quick overview, I think our next meetup is actually happening tomorrow night. Tickets are sold out for it. However, we have got another meetup happening on, I think there's one happening on Thursday, one of our clients. We're not involved in it, but one of our clients is promoting it called Vonage. So check out showcode.io if you're interested and you're available on Thursday to go to that. Otherwise, we will be back with Engineer Your Career in about 2 weeks' time or so. So just having like a bit of a break just to reset before the new quarter. And we're going to be hearing from a guy called Corey, who currently works for an AI company, but he actually works in marketing, so a bit of a different angle, but he studied anthropology at university, so a very unique journey into AI. So if you are interested in tuning into that, go for it. And then we got obviously our famous Athena hackathon happening in July as well, so hopefully we'll see you there, Rhea. From the looks of it, I think you are going to be there.
I think so. I already checked with my company. I was like, hey, don't forget we're going, right? I should be there for sure. But like Jess said, please feel free to reach out. I mean, it's a lot of information, and I'm also happy to share the slide deck with anyone who wants it. So feel free to just let us know if that's something that's needed. And I appreciate everyone who's actually tuned in. So thank you.
Right. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your Tuesday, a lovely rest of the week. Try and stay out of the bad rain at the moment that we seem to have again. We can't seem to get away with it at the moment, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.